and Rob were just talking about like, trying to sort out his like, or going to like getting a house now and stuff, and like how it feels like people in our generation are like so screwed sometimes. It's like I can't even imagine getting a house in like my parents' area because it's so expensive nowadays.
Oh,
And
I've already
Germany's
given up.
oh, cool, 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 cool. Same boat, same boat, right? Uh,
I need a better
it's
job.
That's the thing, though. Me and Rachel were talking about it the other day, and like, because this is like the most money I've ever saved in my life, and like all of that kind of stuff. And she asked if I was proud of it, and I was like, not really, because like, I literally just see this as like a necessity to live. Like, I'm literally like spending all of this money just to live. Like,
you could say that's a achievement in itself. It's like I have done what I, as a person, can and have done to save myself, save my money for a house, a car, and stuff. Just being, what was it like? A typical and normal adult is quite an achievement in itself nowadays. You see that how many
that's
people
crazy,
like,
isn't it?
yeah, but yeah, which actually, saying it out loud is quite bad, isn't it? But like, you see a lot of people nowadays are very, let's say, scattered, and you need a lot of like people to be built together to make themselves into like a normal functioning adult. And I feel like adults nowadays, it's not the same as adults in like, let's say, the 90s or the 80s, and it's just like it feels different, but because like everything is so much more expensive. If I had my money that I have now back in the 80s, I could be living it up. It's like, yeah, I got like 3 houses and then another 2 apartments, and I rent them out if I lease sales of freeholds. Yeah, big man, really big bucks. Like, yeah. But sorry,
that's the living the dream.
That's not what this chat is about. This chat is about having good times, watching movies, and we shall go back to that. So, my
That was a wonderful segue.
What was the movies that you chose, and why did you choose them?
7 Magnificent Men and The Life of Bugs. But yeah, they were both inspired by a film that Alec chose last year. Was it last year or the year before that? I can't remember.
Year before.
No, it's the first year. It's 3 years ago.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, it's going so fast. Magnificent Seven, named after the Good Brothers film club. It was a classic story that that was we all resonated with, and we all really loved. And Alec really is one of his favorite films, and one of my favorite films as well. And Seven Samurai.
What's an Alec?
What is an Alec is a derivative of a man that moans and groans about all things and everything at all times. But aside from that, The Magnificent Seven is a direct American remake of Seven Samurai, which in all intents purposes would be a bad sign as soon as you hear the word remake. But what was great about it and what was quite refreshing about it,
hello,
it wasn't just the straight up remake. It was
that was like 10 years left.
It was quite look, let's try and get to the core of what made this film great, and we will retell it in a Western setting and try and make a really great film that stands up on its own by the same sort of story. And Bug's Life essentially does the exact same thing, but using the Pixar genius method of telling it in a completely different frame and different like lens, you could say, by setting it in the world of insects and making it like the grasshopper and the ant fable from Aesop's Fables, if you remember that. Just the whole thing, combining those 2 elements together with Magnificent Seven of being like these group of villagers needing to like save their village from these horrible perpetrators, these pirates, these like pillagers that are stealing them and living off the land and trying to basically the word of trying to say here, trying to rolling off again, but but basically that core idea was why those films are perfectly linked in my mind. Or those 3 films with Samurai as well, is because that story is very timeless, very apt as it was from when it started until when they wrote the story when it came out now. Because it's like there's always going to be someone that's trying to take advantage of someone who's weaker or seems to be weaker, seems to be kind of like beneath someone else, but there will be people out there that are always trying to use that and be manipulative and trying to kind of like find the easy route and to just kind of yada yada. What was going to say?
No.
I'm just distracted by Rob just for taking this doing a striptease there.
Sorry, I was getting hot.
But yeah, those films, I feel like just represents what's so good about humanity is that there will always be people out there who need help, and there will always be people out there who will want to help a person in need, and both films represent that very well. Is that someone going out of their comfort zone, finding someone with like-minded people to go and help a cause and fight the good fight, and trying to do what's right. And both films do that very, very represent that very perfectly, in my opinion. As one last thing before we move on, I think Magnificent Seven has always been a film that my dad liked, and obviously, as Rob said to me, that's one of his dad's favorite films as well. So it's kind of like a film of every generation in a lot of ways. And Bug's Life continued that with a third interpretation of that story. That's so like everyone has their own version of the story that they grew up with. And so our dads had Magnificent Seven, we had Bug's Life. So I feel that's quite a touching thing, that there'll always be a version of the story that we will be able to like connect with. And so yeah, that's why I thought they were very apt choices and they've paired well with each other.
I really like how you sum that up, man. Like with the bit about there'll always be people who need help and there'll always be people who are willing to help. It's a shame Emmanuel wasn't here for this, because I know like this pairing sort of like confused him a bit. But yeah, I think that was a really nice way to put it.
Yeah, hopefully he understands it if he watches back.
Yeah.
I think it's easier to explain with the character arcs or the character types, if then more than anything else, because like it's, without making it sound silly, there is a lot of the tropes, right? You have a group of people in the Seven that have always done the certain things that are always similar to each other. Like we have the in Magnificent Seven we have not Vin, who's the main guy. It's Chris is the main guy, and Vin as well. But like then afterwards we have in like A Bug's Life we have Francis and we have Slim. Yes. And they're like they have the bickering and they have like their little things, but they always get things done. And it's all the character tropes that kind of play along those characters that make the group dynamic really realistic, I guess is the best way to say it, because like in a group of people, you always have certain things that are like opinions differing, and there will always be a little bit of like tensions and bickering. But it's mostly when you're a group of people who are working together to do the same thing, it's mostly the arguments are there, but they're still doing the job that they need to do, and they still get along, even though they have like tensions in the group. And I think that's quite well made in both movies, and in any future remakes. I actually have not seen the actual remake version of the Magnificent Seven, which was made in 2016
or something.
16, 18? Yeah, okay.
But not that long ago.
Yeah, but it's like I haven't watched that one, but I could tell like through the trailers, it's like, oh yeah, he's him, and that person's that guy, and that guy's got the knives. Yeah, okay, we can kind of see we can see which character tropes in it, because like just seeing like it's like kind of like you can they all fit their roles quite well, and those roles work with each other in their very intended purposes. Obviously, A Bug's Life being being a children's show, you can't obviously have as much dying, even though it's very obvious that some characters die and stuff. But that's another point. You can't have so much dramatic death as in like you had in Magnificent Seven, which is, I guess that's not fair on the film itself, because it is an older film. Because like the amount of times the characters get shot, but it's not really, you don't really see the blood until the next scene over, and it's like, oh, is that where he got shot in the arm and he's bleeding out? Oh no, product of its time, but still, because of when it was made, really good. But there was one thing I noticed, which I noticed very early on in Magnificent Seven, and I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like a lot of people have said it to me when they've heard that sound. When the younger guy, Chico, was drunk and goes into the bar and has like an argument with like Chris and stuff, and he shoots his gun, I swear to God, that's the same sound effect as a blaster from Star Wars. It's because I listened to it and it didn't sound like a gun. It sounded like, I was like,
the ricochet sound. That's what it is. They used that in Thunderbirds as well.
Fair enough. That might have been it. But like when he shot and that sound came out, and I was like,
they did that a lot in the 60s.
It's the same as like.
But in that era, didn't they just use sound effects instead of a live gun, which they should really be still using now?
They still do, to be fair. Like, even if they use a live gun on set, they'll probably use some stock sound for the actual film.
Well, not every film.
No, true. That's true. They should use that. Let's go back to the old school days and just being like, literally get the actors to like pew and say it when they do it. But yeah, I think in the 60s they kind of had like stock sound effects, so that's why they're more like obvious that that's where I've heard that from.
You know, you're saying that, right? At work today, I was sort of standing as a security guard for about an hour while our guard was on lunch, and there was two, like, I'd say one was 3, one was 5, got little water pistols out and started having a little gunfight using their mouth to make sound effects. I quite enjoyed that.
Oh, cool.
I'm really interested, actually, Pat. Was this the first time you'd seen Magnificent Seven?
No, I watched it when I was younger with my granddad, and my granddad liked it. So I suppose you could probably go a generation further back.
Right.
And I know my mum likes it, but I think my mum watched it with my granddad when she was younger. And then I watched it with my granddad when I was like, I would have said 8 or 9. But I hadn't seen it for such a long time. To be fair, like I watched it.
Quite a while since I last watched it.
Yeah, like I watched it when I was 8 or 9, and I think I watched A Bug's Life around the same time because I was about 9 when it came out.
Yeah.
And then I watched the remake in the cinema in 2016. But like, if you did like a triple bill of those 3 films, I would have had a great time watching all 3. Like,
I'm not big on the remake.
I mean, the remake isn't very original. It's basically going for scene remake. But I mean,
Yes.
I have a thing where I'll happily enjoy Denzel Washington do anything. So I'm sort of a little bit biased.
But that's the thing, though. Like, his casting is perfect, and I think if you was to put together like if you were to put together a cast list for a remake of it, he would be the first person on it. And it's just a real shame that the film didn't live up to the casting of him.
Is it because Chris Pratt was in it?
Yeah, that's
that doesn't help.
I mean, I like Chris Pratt as well, but he's not anywhere near the league of Denzel Washington.
Denzel level.
Like, Denzel is up in that Al Pacino, Robert De Niro sort of school of acting.
Yes.
Where
I
Chris
think-
Pratt
Is that foreshadowing that?
Oh yeah, indeed. I was going to say that where I think the remake, even though I
Who
didn't
said
enjoy
that?
it at the time, where the remake kind of goes kind of like wrong a bit is just because it doesn't try anything new. Like obviously, Magnificent Seven is a remake of Samurai, but it tries something new by taking the samurai mythology into the Western mythology and changing the setting entirely, making it a new thing. Whereas the remake with Denzel Washington was just like another Western. It didn't do anything different.
That's the problem with modern remakes, though, is like
Mm.
they are quite lazy. Even though I enjoy a large chunk of them, they are quite lazy in the fact that we see this film, we'll just do it scene for scene, exact same. When there's so much you could actually do to make it different in the modern day to what it was in the 60s or whenever it originally was done. Even look at things like Ben's last film, The Thing. It's a remake of a film that was out in what, the 30s?
No, 50s.
It's a
No, it's not
50s one.
50s. Oh, 50s.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be any more different. It was so much improved. Even another one of Ben's other picks, The Fly.
Mhm.
Like, they're examples of how to make a remake. And obviously, The Magnificent Seven, the one that we've just watched now, is a prime example of a sort of a perfect remake, using an original masterpiece, some would say, and make it in your own image. And I appreciate it for that.
Okay, it's good that you said it like that, because when you said remake, then you mentioned like The Thing. I was thinking, were you like talking like Magnificent Seven version, but like sci-fi? I was like, how would that work? I was confused for a second. Like, aliens were farming crystals and like some like, I was thinking, how that wouldn't work?
Oh,
like,
that sounds
Star Wars.
That sounds like a spicy remake. That one.
It's like, huh.
You got it like completely there. Like that is exactly the problem with the remake of the Magnificent Seven, because like Ben said it at the start, like the story is timeless, and if you were to recontextualize it as something that's relevant like 50 years after the Magnificent Seven, in the same way that the Magnificent Seven recontextualized Seven Samurai, then you could have had a really good film, but they literally just made a modern Western that nobody really asked for. And even if you look at that episode of The Mandalorian that redoes Seven Samurai, it's like, that's. I mean, it literally is just a condensed version of Seven Samurai, but that's cool because it's in like a different galaxy, and it's in a completely different context. But just doing it like another Western with Denzel Washington instead of Yul Brynner, like it's like.
Because I thought that it was what Rick Famuyiwa, or whatever his name was, that did it, right? Is that his name? But the director is known for like urban, gritty gangster thrillers, crime dramas and stuff. I thought, okay, let's make it in like the streets of LA, or I don't know, some or Chicago or something in America, modern day. I'd have been like, okay, modern day version of Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven, with like proper like pimps and gangsters and stuff. That would be quite interesting. Even if it might not be as good, it might be like, okay, this is different. I would have been like, okay, I understand what you're going for and what you're trying to do. So there is a space for another modern take somewhere down the line.
That's the thing.
If they did it right.
Because like when
that's not the thing.
Because when they made the Magnificent Seven, it was in an era where westerns were the big thing. Like between the 60s and 80s, I'd say the western sort of genre is kind of like what the Marvel sort of stuff is these days. Obviously, I'm not saying that we should have a Marvel film as a remake of Akira.
It's alright, man. Alex not here.
Well, a comic book movie.
But like what you said, like if they did a remake as a sort of a gritty crime epic, I think that probably would have worked better in terms of like trying to stay faithful to the original stuff, but making it worthwhile to have the remake.
You made me think of like a LA noir version of Seven Samurai, where like people are making tobacco farms and stuff. I was like, oh wait, that would be really gritty, but that would be really awesome. I was just thinking, oh wait, no, I've been watching too much Sin City. That's probably why. I was like, oh yeah, that would work. That would actually work.
There's never such thing as watching too much Sin City.
Well, Alec would say it's differently.
But he's not here, so he can
even if you go back in time and do a remake of Seven Samurai Magnificent Seven in like 1940s film noir style, that would be quite interesting. So there's a lot of ways they could do it. They even do a pirate version if you like that on the seven seas with like proper like on galleons and ships and like all these pirates trying to loot this like island or something. There's a lot of ideas that they could try and do. So, yeah, it's
A Muppet Magnificent Seven.
yes.
I don't know. I mean, that's pushing it just a touch too far. Which is too much.
The Muppets is
too much
never
comedy.
pushing anything too far. If you haven't got a Muppet version of something, it hasn't been pushed far enough.
If anyone can do it, they can.
Yeah.
Imagine Charles Bronson as Fozzie Bear, or Fozzie Bear as Charles Bronson, rather. That'd be perfect.
I mean, would you have Kermit as Vin or as Christo? That's the main point. It's like he has to be the loner character, so it would either be him or Gonzo being it, and I just can't imagine Kermit in the front going, "Yeah, shut yeah," and it's like, okay, it's just too much.
Yeah.
It's too much.
The only bit that you might want to consider is that scene where Steve McQueen is like, "There's a lot of ugly women in some towns, and there's some pretty ones in others."
Okay. So we've gone like because I think everyone's tired. We wouldn't have any structure. We should both do intros to the movies, right? Sorry. I'll go first because I did mention it. I watched Magnificent Seven when I was much younger, and I completely forgot that I have watched it before. It was like I didn't remember the beginning at all, but it was like I remember the scene where he's like, he's riding the hearse up. Oh, I've seen this before. I've actually remembered this scene. This scene was really cool even as a kid, where he's like, why can't he be buried in the cemetery? There's just thieves and criminals and scum that's just buried there. It's because he's Indian. And it's like, wow, okay, that's like. Then afterwards,
my feet stink. Sorry.
Then afterwards, he's got like, I've never ridden a shotgun hearse before. It's first time for everything, and it's like, yeah, it's building up the characters, and they're so cool, even as like very young me. But I just couldn't. But I remember like watching halfway, then like I don't know, it kind of blurs. As I just rewatched it, and I was like, I remember why I liked it because it has so much character development and all like all the stuff in it. I was like, yeah, this is good. It was, and like and that helped me go into nostalgia mode for A Bug's Life, which unfortunately Alex did ruin by making a point about the damn flea. And I thought about it and I was like, fuck, he's absolutely right. And it's like, damn, that doesn't, and it made me just like drop my story score a bit. And it's like,
oh, God damn it, Alex.
I was like, because like I kept thinking about it, I was like, how did he know? No, because he took a while to get to, and it's like, just, and it hurt. And it's like, no, just cut down the score just a little bit. I was like, oh no. But yeah, that's good.
Shouldn't have admitted that on the stream because he's going to get a big head when he watches it.
It's fine.
So, I mean, you gave it a 9, so I'm okay with that. Magnificent Seven at least. 8 for Bug's Life, not bad.
Okay.
I must admit, I think if this wasn't a double bill and A Bug's Life was picked like in isolation, I might have given Bug's Life a bit of a higher score. But I think the Magnificent Seven is just like, I think it's such a great film, and I think like the dynamics between the Seven and the villagers, and just like those scenes that are a little bit more like mundane, I suppose, where they're just kind of like hanging out and like talking to one another. I love them so much, and yeah, I think it's kind of like I think also because I watched them both in the same day, it probably didn't help as well. But I think coming out of Magnificent Seven and being like, man, that's such a great film, and then watching The Bug's Life after, I was like, oh, I still really do love it, but it's not the Magnificent Seven.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, I just I really love like the way that they all play off of one another, and just that sense of like everyone sort of coming together and doing some good. I just it gives me like it gives me the same kind of buzz as Seven Samurai does. And it's interesting as well. Actually, I was reading the other day that so in the week I said, oh, this already has points over the Dollars trilogy because it credits Seven Samurai in the opening credits.
Yeah.
So there's a really interesting thing, right? So when it must have been the first of those films. What's the name of it? What's the name of the first in that trilogy?
Fistful of Dollars.
Yeah, Fistful of Dollars. So I think it was when Fistful of Dollars came out, or it might have been one of the others. I'm not sure, but basically, Akira Kurosawa sent Sergio Leone a like a telegram or whatever, and he was like, "I saw your movie. I was really impressed by it, but it's my movie." And he was like, basically saying, "Look, you've made a good film, but you're a thief." And Sergio Leone was just so like hyped to have got a letter from Akira Kurosawa that he was showing everyone like, "Oh, isn't this great?" And they're like, "No, it's telling you you're a thief, man." and the difference is that when he saw Magnificent Seven, he was so impressed by it that he sent John Sturges a samurai sword as a gift.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
yeah, I read
cool.
that too. That's what like convinced me that look, this is the most important person you have to convince. This is like yeah, and if he appreciated what you're trying to do, that was everything.
yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like it's kind of sad because you look at this, and I think this is kind of like the gold standard of American remakes. And you look at like the circumstances around it, where like it only came 6 years after Seven Samurai, and it recontextualized things to America and all of that kind of stuff. Like it's basically all the stuff that American remakes still do now, but American remakes have such like a bad reputation because they've all been so shit for so long.
Oh, there's a few films that are on like mine and Pat's list that would have an argument with that, mostly Hong Kong cinema. But like I feel like maybe that's I don't know, that one's actually quite a good remake. Both of those are quite a good remake. So but I also feel like it's mainly because the director is giving props to where he got the inspiration from. Because technically speaking, a lot of things in modern day are stolen from everything else. Like a lot of stories have been told differently, but it's still so. Because like if we really go back to what it was, the Aesop tales, those sort of stories have been like told since fucking forever, right? And it's like, but like everyone does their interpretation of the ant and the grasshopper, the turtle and the hare, and all like the city mouse, the town mouse, city mouse. A lot of like everything is done in its own day and age, but no one's going to go, yeah, I got inspired by a fairy tale from over 1,000 years ago. And it's like, yeah, that's no one's going to say that. But it's so nice to see like modern day directors go, this is what inspired me. I feel like I could take it into a slightly different direction and make it and have like my own take on it and make it exciting in its own way. I mean, Avatar is technically Pocahontas, right? But it's like, but it's like, is it
Dances with Wolves is closer?
Yeah,
I suppose that's Pocahontas as well, isn't it?
Okay.
It's a treasure.
But the point is, I mean, I get where the inspiration was from. I don't quite agree with the story, but it's your own version of the story, and that is fine. But it's like, yeah, but you got it from, you know where it looks like, right? And don't say you don't know. You know what it looks like.
You do know the context of Avatar.
What do you mean?
That's the only reason for it.
Okay, sure. But that's
You're gonna get your
that's-
friend commenting on us again now that we're bringing up James Cameron's unhealthy obsession with money.
Now, whoever comments can say I'm chatting shit about something.
But in any case,
Oh,
shit, I forgot what I was going to go with that.
sorry, man.
Stories in themselves have been retold and retold again, and that's why we have things like, what the fuck is it? What is it? What is that? The public domain, I guess. It's the reason why we have Scary Winnie the Pooh.
Oh yeah.
And I forgot about that because I just thought about it right now. I was like, yeah, because it's in public domain. We have Scary Winnie the Pooh. It was just short of public domain that we could have got Cocaine Bear Winnie the Pooh, because that would have been, in my honey. And it's just like, oh damn! Imagine seeing that. That would have been cool. But that's another point. That's just me making funny points. I don't want to be too serious and be silly. But like stories have been told differently, and it's okay to make your version of the story. You just gotta give credit to where you got your inspirations from. And I think if people do that, people will be very willing to go, I see where they come from, and I can give it credit where it's credit's due, and we can see how this story is told. And that's what makes people go to, well, watch films, play games, and everything else. I think that's quite nice to see as well, because the story, especially from A Magnificent Seven to A Bug's Life, which is like the same sort of story, told ever so slightly differently, but still very similar enough to go, I see where they get inspired, I see where they changed it, and it's still quite a good story. And I think that's quite nice.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that I was thinking this week while I was watching A Bug's Life is that it's kind, and I guess it's because it's like very early Pixar as well, but it's basically like sort of the Seven Samurai kind of story, just meeting everything about Toy Story, because you had like the same kind of like humor, the same kind of like characters, like the ladybug's basically Mr. Potato Head, right? and
angry and irritable. Unsure of his identity.
Watching that, like, all I could see was Pumbaa.
It's great, man. Do you know, I kept thinking as well, I can't believe that this was made on like Windows 98.
Really?
Yeah, it was
Windows,
even been like 95, like it's
shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, you said it. I do agree. I think it really does hold up even now with HD 4K and all that. It's even if it's still not quite as remarkable as Pixar now. It's still like this is still like some of the best CGI animated movies I've ever made, because it's just like the sheen on the characters is and all the like the lighting and the shadows and everything about it is just so well done.
Yeah, like the only kind of like criticism I could have of it is that like some of the outside shots like look a bit they look a bit more basic than the others, but as soon as you're inside, it's like, man, you could easily fool me that this is a modern film.
I think it's the character details that make. I feel like it's most Pixar films, but like the character details for each individual like bug is very important, mainly because with Hopper's character, you have like he's got like the scar in his eye, but you see it, but that's not the main thing. The main thing is that his eye, like color, the lens of his eyes are slightly different, because he's got like scar tissue on his eyeball, on his right eye. And I'm like, no, you didn't need to do that. But the fact that you did, and in fact, some people will notice it, it's amazing, because the amount of details go, yeah, but wouldn't it make sense for him to have it like this? Because, yeah, I guess we could just add it in. And it's like such small attention to details that people will probably miss. But the fact that it's there makes it really amazing. And I guess that's, and that still has carried on for all of, like, especially with the very spectacular Monsters Inc. with the next what they do, and it's like all the details for like Sully's hair and all the stuff. so minute details, but so amazing to see, and it's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
Monsters Inc. is where you can kind of see the progress a bit more, I suppose, because when you've got like, shit, what's the big blue guy called?
Sully,
Sully,
Oh, it is Sully. Yeah, no, the little one was Mike.
Mike.
Mike,
Yeah,
Mike Wazowski.
yeah. So like, yeah, where you've got like Sully's first,
Wazowski.
the difference between the first and second Monsters Inc. is just like, oh shit, there is like, things have advanced, but the first one still holds up.
But yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
think like with Pixar, they always kind of mastered a new thing every time they made a movie.
Mm.
Like with Bug stuff, I think they kind of mastered like lighting after Toy Story came in, and like living texture and stuff like that. And then when Monsters Inc. came out, they mastered like fur. And then when Finding Nemo came out, they mastered like water.
Yeah.
And then when Cars came out, they kind of like did metallic sheens, just perfectly like real like cars.
Mm.
And so on. They kind of like perfected the thing until they came into the Pixar we know now that just know everything, and everything just looks perfect.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was really nice to go back and watch it because like, I don't even remember the last time I watched A Bug's Life, but it's one of those things where every kind of like every few minutes something happens and it sort of like unlocks a memory, and then you're just like, oh. But yeah, it was nice. It was nice having the nostalgia of it this week.
Would you say the A Bug's Life is one of the less watched Pixar movies?
It's the
Because-
most underappreciated.
Yeah, because like I feel like I watched it again and I was like, I remember that joke. That joke was so
Yeah.
funny. But then afterwards I was like, why don't I remember that joke from before I watched it? Because it's like
Mm.
everyone watches Toy Story because it's the first one, and everyone watches Monsters Inc. because it hits something about their childhood, and like it's like the most like upgraded from like this is like first take Toy Story and second take of Bug's Life. Third take, we finally got it just about perfect. Monsters Inc. And everyone else watches everything else afterwards. Oh, it might be because everything else has a sequel now. That's probably why as well.
Hmm.
But like everyone watches all of those, and it's just like, yeah. Everyone seems to forget about A Bug's Life. I feel like even Disney themselves have forgot about A Bug's Life because it feels
It's
like
the underdog. It's the ultimate underdog.
yeah, and that sucks because it's like if you was to go to like, I feel like if we was to go to Disney World right now and we will go, do you have any A Bug's Life attractions? I think they would probably go
Yeah.
no, and I'll be like, oh,
They cried.
that sucks because it's part of our childhood, and it's the part, and it's a big part of like us learning the sort of humor that we have. The joke I was referring to is the one with the mosquito and goes, Harry, don't look into the light. I can't help it. It's so beautiful.
Yes. I had that as well. I completely forgot that was part of A Bug's Life.
It's even as a child, even now, it's a hilarious joke. But it's like I didn't remember that at all. It's something about it's like it's almost the same as finding an old like dad joke book or a pun book, and you're reading, what the hell is this? And you read like a pun and be like, what do you call a can opener that can't open cans? A can't opener. That's such a stupid joke, but that's hilarious. I don't know why. And it's like you watch it and it's like I feel like it's part of nostalgia hitting, but it's like it was such a funny joke. But every time I've watched it, I've always laughed out loud. And I was like, oh man, I remember that. That was happier times. But yeah, I remember that. It's great.
Yeah. No, I had the exact same reaction, man, because I was watching it with my mum, and as soon as I saw like the light, I was like, it's sort of what I said before, like it unlocked that memory, and I was kind of going like, I remember this like photographically, but if I hadn't watched this, I never would have thought of it.
No.
And it's just one of those
It's in
things
there.
where it's like, why is that like implanted in my brain on like a subconscious part of it? Like it's but I mean that's what's really nice about A Bug's Life is that, you know, where like Pixar, they always do like this really cool thing where their films have like something for sort of like kids to learn about life, and it's not always like obvious what it is. Like, I mean, some are a bit more like heavy-handed than others. Like Inside Out is like obviously about the thing that it's about, but yeah, there's always something in there that I think as a kid it's a good idea to watch a Pixar film for, because you come away with it, and whether you realize it or not, you do kind of get a perspective on something that will help you through life, I think. And I think A Bug's Life is a really interesting one because where it's taken, and it shows you like how timeless the story of Seven Samurai is, because you've got like this old, like at the time it would have been like 45-year-old story that started off in Japan, and then it was adapted into the Magnificent Seven, which like the generation before this would have all seen, and like it would have been like a big thing for them. And to then sort of like boil it down into a kids' film, which is also then like there's another layer on it because it's about bugs. So it's like it's taking like full advantage of like animation as a medium because it's shrinking everything down into just like the things that are in our gardens. And yeah, I think that's a real testament to how timeless and universal that story is, and how much value it has as well for Pixar to do it. Well, I'm glad you all agreed.
It's sucked. Yes.
It just becomes a question of like, would you watch it in like release order if you was to teach a kid like life morals? If you was to watch like Pixar movies every few years, or would you watch it in like your own like sort of order? Because it's like if you like show a kid Inside Out as a teenager, it's just like, oh right, it explains emotions and growing up with emotions. But if you showed like it to like someone who's like, I don't know, like 5, but like they might not quite understand what it is, and they'd be like, I think I get it, like different colors, but like I don't quite understand it. But if you showed them things like a Toy Story first, I'd be like, all right, yeah, because you know, toys and things have like their own sort of like soul in them, and it's like, all right, yeah, that's cool, that makes sense. I feel like there's a certain there is like a watch order list for a child to watch Pixar movies growing up, but I don't know what that list is yet because I don't think anyone has put it in a canonical order. Maybe if I check Reddit, maybe someone will have an answer, but like I can't think of what it is right now. But like there is a list to way you watch Pixar movies. I just don't know how they are. Oh, that reminds me. Speaking about Reddit, have you heard about that weird like theory that all the Pixar movies are interconnected with each other?
I have heard this one.
Yeah,
because they're in the same universe.
Yeah, they're all in the same universe. Supposedly, like I think it's mainly because Pixar animators like putting Easter eggs in their movies. Yeah, but they're all connected to each other. It's just like if in Finding Nemo you see a kid reading a comic book, but you read what the comic book was, it's like, oh, it's The Incredibles, and it's like, oh yeah, it's all connected. I mean, that's just an Easter. Is it connected?
It's just an Easter egg.
Yeah, it's just an Easter egg, right? It's not really
because the Pizza Planet truck is in every Pixar movie so far. It's in Soul. It's even in bloody WALL-E. Yeah, every single film, and that's what's so incredible that they've always put a little thing nod into it. And I think if you remember, it was in the scene where the bug zaps on the light.
Right, yeah, I think it's
the old camper van, the little caravan, that's just parked outside that in the countryside, and that Pizza Planet truck is in every single one.
But people take it too, but also I feel like the animators take it a bit too far because like in things like Brave, they have
I think it's an etching in Brave as well. It's actually a carving made out of wood, and it's just the car.
It's
the Planet logo.
Yeah, but that wasn't what I was talking about. I was talking about there's a picture of a door, but it has Sully in it, and I'm just like, wow. Did you do that because of an Easter egg, or you just did it because you thought it was funny? You got Pixar animators, stop! You got to calm down. You got to make people think too much. But they go, yes, part of yes. You fall into our trap. Now we just got to keep thinking about it. But it's like, yeah, okay, fine. I'll probably watch all Pixar movies until they all like it's on Disney Plus. I watch them all infinitely until I can, I guess. I feel like I've watched actually Finding Nemo more times than most people can admit because I have like younger family members who just have Finding Nemo on. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Just watching this fish go through it all again and again and again.
Finding Nemo is another one that's like, I don't know. That when it first came out, we would have been like what, 14, something like that.
Maybe younger, but yeah, maybe around.
But I remember when it came out, it was huge. Like it was everywhere for a couple of years. But I don't know. It seems to have like died out a bit now.
I mean, it was like, or it was. I feel like this is being very meta about talking about it. It's all the branding and like cross production stuff and all that marketing stuff. You remember how many Happy Meal toys came with Finding Nemo, and like you could like collect all the fish and all this different stuff, and they all make weird sounds, and it's just like it went on for quite a while, and like the marketing for it was so big. Everyone just thought, yes, yeah, everything's Finding Nemo now. But it's just like, I feel like that happens with most Pixar movies, not all, because like nowadays people like, what is the newest Pixar movie?
Lightyear was the last one.
Or Turning Red, maybe.
Turning Red. No,
Okay.
that was Disney. Luca before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of them three.
Yeah,
Wasn't it Encanto?
No, Encanto was just Disney.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Oh.
Yeah.
But it took you guys like a few moments to get through it, right? And you're thinking, why did it take us that long? Because it's mainly because I don't feel like it was marketed that well, I guess.
Yeah,
But-
that's a really weird thing about Pixar now, because since Disney Plus, I think the last 3 or 4, apart from Lightyear, have gone straight to Disney Plus rather than cinemas. So I think it was Soul,
Yeah.
Luca, Turning Red all went straight to Disney Plus.
Yeah, you're right. They all went streaming, and then Lightyear went out in cinemas and flopped, and then they've gone back to streaming again. So it's
But I think they've got one coming out soon in cinema.
Yeah, Elemental was getting a bit of a push.
Elemental.
wasn't
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's my point was to say is like the last Pixar movie I think that I went to the cinema and watched was Inside Out, and that was like not even like the last 5 maybe. It's quite back there now. I'm like,
Yeah, that was
why?
like, yeah, Jesus, man, that was before Coco even.
Yeah, because like
Yeah.
I was so far away from like watching a Pixar movie in the cinema. I'm just like, damn, it's just like it just took so long for me to get into it, and it's like I'm not used to it anymore. And it's like, okay, just like everything is on Disney Plus, but I just watch it there, which is in itself is fine because like I'm willing to pay for Disney Plus and watch it there. But it's like I haven't really felt that about watching a Pixar or Disney movie in the cinema for such a long time.
Yeah.
Don't
I
know
think-
why.
Inside Out was a weird one though, because I think that's a perfect example for me of what I was saying about like Pixar making films that you're supposed to take something from. Because I don't think I like Inside Out very much. But I remember, well, this is the thing. I don't think I enjoyed it much, but I remember coming out of it and like just feeling like a weight was lifted off my shoulders and just being like, yeah, like the good parts of life wouldn't be as good without the sad bits. Like you need those. And it's like, even as like I don't know how old we were when it came out, but I was probably like what, 25 at the time, something like that.
Yeah.
But I just remember coming out and just being like, man, like that's like added meaning to the sad parts of my life. and even though I don't like the film very much, like that's a testament to what Pixar can do.
I heard that some psychologists actually do use Inside Out to explain like emotions to kids. So I was like, I guess that's. I mean, if you say that you watched the film and you came out like, I feel like I've received therapy. I guess that makes sense. I guess I feel like people will have that sort of like joy about watching that film, even if as you say, you don't like it. I like it. I personally like it quite a lot. I think it's very. Would that be a choice in the future? Oh,
I think it'd be an excellent choice. I mean,
but
I'd probably give it like maybe 5 or 6 for enjoyment, but it would definitely get 10 for impact.
oh, that's a choice. I don't know which Pixar movie I would choose.
Don't be teasing this to Rob because he's already racking his brains over what one of the 20 films you're going to pick next.
Oh well, no, that's different. No, that's okay. I got you for that. I had all my 20 films. Do you guys actually want to know what my 20 films are? So do you want to Oh wait, this is going extremely off tangent, but I feel like this call has gone off tangent quite a bit.
Yes.
Rob, did you watch Demon Slayer, the Mugen Train?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I went to the cinema the other day to watch it.
Did you like it?
I had no idea what was going on. There was about 5 end credits, and I was just kind of sat there like, what? Because I think the thing is, right, so usually with like films that are adapted from anime series, like it's usually not self-contained as such, but you can usually go into it without much knowledge of like what else is going on, and you can pick up a thread and you can kind of get used to what's going on. But this just sort of jumped around like different parts of like different arcs and whatever, and I was just like, I've not got a clue what any of this relates to.
I feel like it's mainly because you haven't watched the actual anime series, right? As well,
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
That's that's dangerous then, because okay, I have 2. I'll give you guys a little like intro into my mind. There's 2 anime films that are on my 20 list. One has like some context shown into it at the beginning of the film that will help contextualize what the film's about and stuff, and that's fine. The second one is emotionally scarring, but without the context for it, you might not get that emotion. Well, no, that's not true actually. Oh shit! If we get, I mean, I'll show you guys a list after my roll when I roll the dice. But like that film, the second anime film, is very emotionally scarring. But even without the context, it would still be quite an emotionally scarring film, I think.
Well, that's kind of like what the thing with Batman: Mask of the Phantasm was, though, right? Because if you'd watched the animated series. It would have been like nice, but you don't need to.
It still holds up on its own thing. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. But it's like, can't wait until I roll that dice. But anyways, back to the films that we were talking about. The more lighter-hearted films, I guess. Yeah, lighter-hearted films. Yeah, but it's like when I watched the Magnificent Seven, there was a lot of the pacing was kind of odd for me because I feel like there was a lot of just like what a lot of them just like training for the shooting and the farming, right? And I feel like that kind of like slowed down the movie a bit because the action was all within like the last 30 odd minutes of the film. There was like bits of it like sprinkled out, but it did take a while for it to get there because there was the whole middle section with Chico and Preta is what I want to say her name is, of the love interest, and I was like, I feel like this wasn't needed. I feel like the love interesting character or love interesting parts of it wasn't really there. I feel like it was so awkward when they first met. And she's like, what are you doing? Slap, slap. And it's like, okay, just and he picks her up and like carries her fireman style onto the horse. I was like, huh? And what? Oh, right, because they were hiding the girls. I guess that, okay, but then after she goes back to him when he's like in the middle of the gunfight because what you did. I feel like the story, the connection between those 2 characters wasn't really well made, and it's like she slapped him, then she fell in love with him. The old West, I guess. Yeah, bang bang, shoot the shot. Yeah, but it's just like, oh no. I felt like the romance part of that film was a bit it was very just added on. I was like,
I think you might be right, to be honest. I think that might be one of those things where they were probably like coming up to sort of working out how they were going to market it, and then maybe some producer somewhere went, do you know what this needs? This needs a love story. And yeah, it was just kind of like tacked in rather than anything that was there for artistic purposes.
Because we lost two of them already.
Oh, I'm still in the room.
Oh, okay. There was Christ, I cannot remember his name. Pat, do you remember if the guy who was like the guy who was chopping wood, the bigger dude who was supposed to, what was his name? Because he has like Christ. Ben, do you remember the name of the guy who was like chopping wood, the bigger guy?
Oh, good question. Magnificent Seven, it was it James Corbin's character, Brit?
Yes. No, Brit is the guy with the knife.
Yeah, Brit's the knife dude. The wood guy was I can't remember.
Well, okay. But the fact that but you know who I mean, because the way I would have characterized him, instead of just being like the woods chopping guy at the front, would be like the surrogate father figure for the kids in the village, because like there was character arcs for him, and I feel like it was quite well made during Magnificent Seven, because he's like whittling at that little whistle thing, and like they're during the festival, and he's playing the little flute thing, and like the kid is like very interested, and he's like, all right, here, take the wood thing, take this little wood flute thing. And it was like, yeah, it's okay. And afterwards, he's got all the other little kids like goes like, no, stay back. I'm shooting here. Why are you here? He's like, oh, I'm here. We're here to like protect you. Protect me? Oh, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, because afterwards, if you die, we take your gun and we avenge you. I was like, thanks. And I was like, oh, but the character development for that was very well done, because it's like afterwards, they've really like stick to him. It's like, please take us with you and take us out of the village. Our father's the cowards. They like spanks the kid and reprimands him. He goes, no, your dads aren't cowards. They're doing a very brave job of being dads.
Yeah, it's Charles Bronson, isn't it? It's
Bernardo. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because he's half Hispanic, half. He goes, oh, so you're adopted? Yeah, I'm half Hispanic, half Irish, and in the middle is me. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. That's quite good. But it was like seeing his character and seeing the development of his character made perfect sense, because you saw he's a nice guy. He's a nice older gentleman who's nicer to the kids, and he sees them as like. And like as a surrogate father character, like even when he died, it's like, see kids, your parents are very brave, and it's like, it's very sweet, very sad. I didn't see that for Chico's and Francis' character development. There was none of that, and I was like, you just got together because reasons, and it just annoyed me, because you see that in Francis's character in A Bug's Life, where he's like, he saved up, and he's like, yeah, you could be the dead mother, but I'm hey, dead mother. It's like, oh, guy, it's like so much pain. Afterwards, he teaches them poker and juggling, but it's just like, yeah, it's the character developments are all there. I feel like the romance for Bug's Life makes sense. It did not make sense for Magnificent Seven, and it annoyed me, and I was like, yeah, that's about it. It's just like, just you added a love. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go.
No, I was just saying you added a love story where it wasn't needed. But you'll go. What's to say?
Yeah, I do agree with you. Like, I don't think I'd go as far to say it annoyed me, but yeah, I totally get where you're coming from on it. But I think the thing with like the action being sort of packed into quite a small part of the film, I think that's actually one of my favorite bits of it because I think if you a problem that I have with like a lot of action films is that the action is like peppered everywhere to a point that it just sort of becomes a bit meaningless. Whereas with Magnificent Seven, like you've had all this time just to like hang out with the characters and to like get to know who they are and that kind of thing. But by the time the action is taking place, you're kind of going like, "Oh no, man! Like, don't shoot my man!" It's-
Yeah, I guess that's true because like
Mm.
of all most of the characters, the most saddest person I thought who died was Brit because it's
Yeah.
like he's so like calm and suave and out there. It's like, uh, uh. All right, fine. All right. I'll just do what I need to do. You're so smooth and so cool, right? And it's like you're so smooth and cool throughout the whole film. But it's like, okay, okay. Now after you see like the gunshot on his chest, I was like, no, Brit, whoa! And it's like one last knife. Oh, and it hits the wall, and it's like, no, it's so sad, see him die, and it's like, I guess that's true because like you see him, yeah, the ending has. I feel like everyone dies quite fast, and it's like, I mean, like, kind of didn't want them to die, but I guess, well, for like story wise, they kind of needed to because of the character comparisons to each character again. But it's like Sarah Samurai have like a lot of people die, and this one is inspired by Sarah Samurai, and they also had to die, and it's like, I guess you kind of need it, but it's like, yeah, it's a bit sudden. So a lot of people got shot, and they died very fast. And but like, I think about it, yeah, but it's a Western. A lot of people do get shot and die very fast. I was like, can't complain, but it's like, no.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the thing that's just like, for me, it's perfect because it's just like such a contrast to like everything that's been leading up to it, and I get really bored with action really quickly. So like, I feel like Magnificent Seven gives you like so much reason to care about what's going on, and where it's such a change in sort of like tone and pace and everything, it's just for me it's brilliant because you are kind of like, well, at least I am like sort of sat there like it's almost like watching a boxing match or something because you're kind of like there sort of like feeling every shot with it, and yeah, you kind of like got somebody that you're rooting for. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. And I think that's something that is done very well in it because Seven Samurai is like what, 3.5 hours?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's definitely
something
over
like
3 hours.
And like Magnificent Seven is like, so just over half of that. So to be able to like, I think they did a really good job of like choosing what was important and like making that experience because you could have easily made it an action film, but I think doing it the way that they did it, where it's like it's more or less mostly a drama, and then it just sort of all ramps up all of a sudden. I think that's like the perfect way to do it. Yeah, earlier on, Simon, when you were saying about like watching the Pixar films in order, I thought you was talking about watching these three films in order, like Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven, and A Bug's Life. And
Oh,
I think Seven Samurai would be like a really tough sell for a kid.
yeah.
It's
No,
like
no, no, no,
I've
no. I
got
mean,
this
like,
Japanese black and white film that's 3.5 hours
man, you
long.
no, I feel like if I showed it to my nephew, he'd really love it to reason. But like my nephew's a bit weird sometimes. But it's like, I meant like all the different sort of Pixar films done in like stages, they all have like different meanings in life. So it's just like what is the moral of the story that we're trying to teach each one? Yeah, but like I see what you mean by that. Yeah, no, that's not what I meant. Oh yeah.
I think like for most of us and probably like most people that were born in our generation, probably watched them backwards, right?
Yeah, but I think you're right. I saw Bugs Life first, then Magnificent Seven, then Samsung.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm pretty sure that would have been the same for me because I remember my first memory of Magnificent Seven was buying the DVD from Blockbuster. Just like on a whim, I didn't really know much about it at the time. I was just like, oh, that looks cool, I'll buy it. And I must have been like maybe 13 or something like that. But I remember getting home and my dad saw it and he started telling me about how it was like one of his favorite films and that kind of thing and how it was based on Seven Samurai. And I think that was probably the first time that I'd heard of Seven Samurai was him telling me that Magnificent Seven was based on it.
I actually heard of Seven Samurai before most of the films because I heard that it was an anime. And I was like, do I really care about this anime that I can't get access to?
But so you went into Seven Samurai expecting something that was like at least 40 years new.
Well, no. It's a bit weird because like once you're such a young kid and you go, oh, I kind of know what anime is because I grew up watching those animations as a child. I'm like, this is like, it's kind of like, how to explain it? When you are a very new anime fan, like in the early 90s and early 2000s, it's kind of like anime homework before you're allowed to call yourself an anime fan. And it's like, yeah, you got to watch Ghost in the Shell, you got to watch Cowboy Bebop, you got to watch Evangelion, you got to watch all your anime standards. You watch that all, then you can call yourself an anime fan. It's a very gatekeeping community, which is unlike now. It's still very gatekeeping community. But it's like, you watch that, and I heard about it from like a long time ago about Seven Samurai. I was like, that's such a anime named thing. I can't get access. Like obviously as a kid, you don't really have pocket money to go to I don't think it was even in Blockbuster, so I'd have to go to like some random like store and just try to get it if they do specialized in like anime DVDs. But it's like I don't have that sort of money. I'm gonna spend it on like Haribo or something. I ain't got that time.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. It's like I've always heard of the name Seven Samurai, never knew where the context or where it came from until like much later. I'm like, oh, it's based on like a white samurai film. Of course that makes sense. But for little Simon, when he was only like 13, I was like, I guess I won't. I don't have enough money to watch that anime.
Yeah.
Back to more Dragon Ball Z. So it's like
Bring in the zoo.
It's weird, really, isn't it? Because it's kind of like it's almost like a little bit sadder for A Bug's Life because I mean it's not forgotten, but it is very underrated and like it's not a film that people tend to talk about anymore. But it's in like a Venn diagram of these two like huge cultural things. Like Seven Samurai is a film that you've heard of before, you know it, and Pixar is just something that everyone knows, but yeah, in the middle of that Venn diagram, you've got A Bug's Life that people just have kind of forgotten about.
Yeah, which is a shame because critically it did well, audiences loved it. It did well box office wise, so it's just I think it's the underdog Pixar movie because it didn't do quite well enough for them to make a sequel or anything like that. And in some ways, yeah, sure, if a sequel was made, it probably will have more cultural relevance, but at the same time, it might have diluted what made the first one so special. And you rarely get like a Toy Story 2 or 3 in that regard, because not many sequels will be just as good as the first one. So it's a tricky path. And
I like how you didn't include Toy Story 4 in that sentence.
I personally like Toy Story 4, but at the same time, the trilogy is perfect. It really is.
But yeah, I guess I was gonna say, A Bug's Life is a very complete story. You couldn't really do more for a complete story. So
what happened?
I mean, like, I guess that's what I mean. I was very like worried about Monsters University. I was like, yeah, but the story's complete though. How are you going to do more to a complete story? It's like, oh, it's a prequel.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But like, how do you do? I mean, you couldn't really do a Bugs Life prequel, could you?
It's just you really seeing Hopper being limited and trying to take over the ants and put them under his thumb. That's what we've already seen that. So yeah, you're right. What else can we see apart from just the ants being carried to Hopper's first appearance? So
I think you're probably onto something there. I think it's probably the case that it's one isolated story that doesn't require anything before or after. And because there's like no sequels to be made or no franchises to come from it, Disney probably just stopped pushing it.
Notice how we say this now, and then in about a couple of years' time, it goes, A Bug's Life 2. And we're like, oh, God damn it. We're like, oh, it's
The
like,
Bug's Afterlife.
yeah,
Bugs-
yeah,
Bugs
Soul.
Life.
It'll be like Bugs Life Soul version, won't it?
Oh.
I was like, what is fixed place in the universe now?
Actually, you know, saying Bugs Afterlife reminds me of the other sort of ant-based movie, Ants by DreamWorks. And I was like, why are there two bug-based movies at the same time? Which one is better? I kind of liked Ants because it had better actors and stuff, and the story was a bit more coherent. But I think Bugs Life made more money, so I guess that's why it crushed Ants completely. Yeah, crushed Ants. Fucking, yeah, but it's just like, yeah. But yeah, Ants, I think, had a more coherent story, but Bugs Life was more popular. So that's probably why we don't really, there's no Ants sequel, like other sort of like DreamWorks sequels of that.
I think I probably need to go back and watch Ants, to be honest, because I think when they both came out, I got a bit tribal about it and decided that I was on like a Bugs Life team and that Ants was shit.
That's
So
fair.
I remember being about like maybe about 10, and I think Ants was on TV for the first time, probably on like ITV at Christmas or something. And I remember getting really annoyed and being like, "This is fake Bugs Life, turn it off."
No, that's the thing, is that Hollywood will always like put out a movie that's the same sort of like idea and tone as another one. But Ants, even though it is kind of like the Bugs Life, like yin to its yang kind of situation, it still is worth its time. It's quite a clever, more adult, more kind of like tongue-in-cheek movie. And it's in a lot of ways it is more like a Woody Allen movie that happens to be actually an ant. Obviously, that in a certain day and age that's not a good thing, but then it has its like merits. But I think it was trying to be a bit more like edgier and a bit more like things. Insects and bugs die constantly in that film compared to Bugs Life, so it was more like brutal in that regard. And a bit more like, yeah, this is the way of life. We're insects and we get squashed all the time and stuff. We go through all these battles with other creatures, and so it was a bit more like a comedy, but in the same style. It was like a kind of like, I don't know. It was a pastiche of the genre, but it's worth it. It's worth a rewatch because I think it does hold up if you can get past the fact that there's human faces on insects' bodies.
Okay, yeah, that was that's very high rudimentary because like, sorry,
even that though, like I mean, I do miss it a little bit because that was when DreamWorks had like its own style of it, and now I don't think there's much to like distinguish the styles of Pixar and DreamWorks now. Like just on like visual styles, like just
all the DreamWorks characters have very large eyebrows, so their characters can do this. And that's the joke of the comedy. All the posters that have DreamWorks 3D animated characters all have big eyebrows, so they can do this. And then it's like, yeah, that's it. And also, if it's Kung Fu Panda or not, because God fucking damn it, Kung Fu Panda made too much money. And they made two or three movies, right? And I was like, I guess, but it's just like it was so unnecessary. But saying that, a lot of, I guess DreamWorks just makes lots of sequels to their movies, even though they're unnecessary. Though I heard the Puss in Boots sequel is actually quite good.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised by it. I thought it was great.
Damn, because I watched the first sequel about it where they have like Humpty Dumpty in it, and
Yeah,
I
he
was like, I was so put off by it, and I was like, Shrek was fine. Shrek 2 was actually kind of okay. Shrek Happily Ever After was kind of like, but like afterwards they did a Puss in Boots sequel. I was like, that's why. That's why. It's this. The story is like, it's not exciting. It's like kind of silly. It's very memeable, but it's like, it's just like.
Yeah.
So if you say that, surprisingly, it was okay. This new sequel, I might give it a chance. Obviously, can't watch it on Disney. Can't watch it on Disney Plus. Would it make sense for it to be there? I'll go find where I could buy it. Might get like if it's on Amazon. Hopefully, I can get it on there.
I imagine it would be on Netflix before long. Like DreamWorks stuff always seems to end up on there. Didn't DreamWorks do the film that Netflix have got a Best Animation nomination for at the Oscars? I can't remember what it's called. The Sea Beast?
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
seen it, but you're right. It's on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
The Sea Beast.
Yeah, the sea beast, the beast of the sea.
No. It's like I might have missed that. Then I'll go.
Yeah,
I'll try
you'll be able to
I'll try-
find it.
Okay. Okay. No, I'll check
Weird.
that out later.
Weirdly enough, it's on Netflix as well as Apple TV.
Beast of the Sea.
Feel a lot of stuff that is on Netflix could be on Apple TV. To be honest, it's like the markets are very similar markets, and they could like either both could make as much money as each other.
Mm.
'Cause,
And
like-
they have things like Spectral that should be on Sci-Fi.
Yeah, but like if we were push it right, you can talk about like all the Hulu stuff and like all the stuff, all the stuff like on like that's on Sky TV instead, right? But like because of licensing deals, it's like yeah, but we want this, but no, you can't have this because we have this in the States already. But no, you're not in the States, you're in the UK, and it's just like a whole load of things, and it's just like I want TV that I can watch TV on, and like I want to watch a film thing where I can watch films on. But because they're all mixed together with all licensing deals and licensing rights, I have to buy a subscription to watch every new TV show that is kind of interesting. I don't want to do that all the goddamn time. It's like, okay, Netflix has TV and movies and they have their own stuff. Sure. It's Disney, sure. But then afterwards, Amazon, it's okay, it's pushing it already. And Hulu Plus, and Paramount Plus, and every other fucking plus there is. It's gonna be a fucking math equation in a second, and it's like that's just like give up. You give up after a while. It's just like I think I'm okay with what I have now, and if I'm not okay, a pirate's life for me. okay. It's like, but like yeah. But like everything else is like everything else I pay for and give credit where it's due, but it's like it gets too complicated.
That's just reminded me. Actually, I need to cancel my trial of MGM.
Oh, is that you watched it too? Oh.
Yeah, because I don't have a Blu-ray player at my mum's, so I was like, no, I'm just gonna go and rent it on Amazon. But yeah, it's quite cheeky what they did because you have to buy it or buy the subscription of MGM.
I thought okay, as I've said before, like for our picks when we do film club, I'm willing to buy the film because it's like it's like a reference library for me, which is annoying because I couldn't actually buy American Werewolf in London. I could only rent that, and that annoys me slightly. I was like, I could buy the sequel, can't buy it. I was like, ugh. But like, yeah, most of the films that we've watched that aren't on like other channels and stuff, I'll probably just buy on Amazon just to say I can rewatch this in the future if I really wanted to.
I've actually added a
Unfortunately-
column to my spreadsheet, like my page on the spreadsheet, to know whether I've bought the film or not.
Oh, okay. Because unfortunately, because it's in alphabetical order, Boba vs. Python is like the second. And I was like, man, I picked this film. I'm kind of proud I picked this film, but it's gonna be on my list forever now. And I'm like, ever so slightly proud that I made everyone watch Shadow Ship film, but it's hilarious for me, and it gives it lightens up my soul, so it's fine. But we've been shooting the ship for quite a while, guys. It's nearly 12 o'clock, and I think everyone else is quite tired this week because it's been like, oh no, wait, do you guys want to do
I'm
like?
still here.
Do you guys want to do favorite scenes for like the Magnificent Seven or Bugs Life first? Or
Yeah,
whichever?
it's two favourite scenes.
Oh, okay. Since I suggest I go first. For Magnificent Seven, it's definitely the going up in the hearse carriage ride and like seeing that because that developed the character. But it's also when they finish and like the guy's offering him a drink. I realized what the caravan said on the side of the thing, and it said Wells Fargo, and I was like, oh, that's a very big, interesting advertisement there. I didn't know Wells Fargo existed in like old cowboy era, but I was like, I don't know, it's just stuck in my mind now. I just saw it, I was like, oh, Wells Fargo. Wait a minute. And I was like, yeah, but that scene, because it develops because it's it gives the characters where they are and who they are, and of like beginning of like what you should do right by man, even though the guy was like, you can't just leave him in the streets for people to walk over. You got to give him a proper burial. It's not right. I even paid for the burial to let him do the burial, and it's like it's very nice, and it gives the context for what you might see in the film later, which you kind of see in the development of like the characters. For Bugs Life, my favorite scene, it's not actually in the movie in itself. It's the end credits for the movie where they made fake bloopers, which I know sounds like a discredit to the movie. It's not. It's a credit to the animators, because making bloopers was one thing, because that happens because people will like mess up lines and stuff. But they made fake bloopers. They made bloopers of Flick picking up like that dandelion like flower petal thing and going to infinity and beyond. And I was like, as a child, that's hilarious, because it's obviously going, oh yeah, because I like that.
Toy Story, yeah.
Yeah, Toy Story, yeah, it's awesome. But you got to think about it. They paid someone to purposely make him walk over, say the line, put it back down, and go, okay, we'll film it properly this time. I'm like thinking of it like now. I'm thinking like, that's insane just to think about it, because like someone got paid to make fake bloopers, and that's beautiful in its own fucking right, because there are scenes like where you've got the princess and you got Hopper, and it's like, do I look like an idiot? Yes, I'm sorry, your face. And she's laughing after. It's like, this is the third take now. I'm gonna go back to my trailer. She can't control herself. She's like, I just need a break. Whew. And then I was like, that's amazing, because you can see the facial expressions and like stuff. It's so cool to see someone make fake bloopers, and I don't think I don't think anyone else any other Pixar movie has that, and I'm very saddened that they don't. I really wish we could have like a Monsters Inc. where it's like you see Mike Wazowski running down the corridor and he slips and he's like, oh my god, Mike, are you okay? Oh no, I think something got into my eye, and it's like, and then someone give me like eye drops, and he goes to bring him like some comically big eye drop thing. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm good. if I saw, I think it's a credit to the animators because they had the passion for the job. But if you saw that in modern day Pixar films, I think I would love them even more than I do, because it just showed you that people cared enough to make these silly little extra things, and it just brings the like the creations of what they've animated to life a lot more. And I think that's quite cool to see.
Yeah, that's a good choice, man.
Very much.
Okay, who's next?
I'm not gonna say me because I'm trying to get rid of hiccups.
Patrick, before you fall asleep, what were your favorite scenes?
In Magnificent Seven, it's the sort of fake face-off that leads to a real one in front of the trains.
Oh, good choice, good choice.
In A Bug's Life, and there's too much to choose from. Probably when they all come back after the, what are they? Crickets.
The grasshoppers.
Grasshoppers have sort of taken over the camp, and after being disgraced and sent away by the other bugs, fucking ants, they come back and sort of help save the day. I kind of quite liked their return to the camp. They'd probably be my two favourite scenes.
I think for mine, I think for I was going to say Seven Samurai, for the Magnificent Seven, I think it's basically the ending, because it's like what I was saying earlier. You've gone on this like journey with these guys because you've been like hanging out with them, and you've just been like you've got to the point where by the time everything's kicking off, you feel like you've got a relationship with them almost, and you're really in their corner, and you just want to see everything go fine. And then, to an extent, it does. But then, when you get to the end, it's kind of like all of that's been and gone now, and it's like it made me really sad that you've had all of this happen, and now it's just like, yeah, thanks. Now go and do what you want to do. Like this bit's over now, and it's like, oh, you kind of like almost willing for it to sort of, I don't know, turn into something else, but it doesn't. Like it's just that they've helped. They don't the guys that they've helped don't need to help anymore. Like that's.
But that's a cliche, and like cowboy films anyway, because like the Western, like the whole point of the Western films is like everyone is a wanderer, and it's like riding off into the sunset. It's such a, I think in a sense of, well, that's just a cliche, but it's like it's kind of like I don't know. I was about to say it's a well played out cliche, but a cliche is something that's just played out a lot anyways. But it's like, oh, I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense because they're saying, guys, you don't need us anymore, and they go off. But it's like, yeah, it's a cliche. Yeah, it's not bad in itself, but it's a cliche.
Yeah, I think what like separates Magnificent Seven a little bit though is because you've got so many of them, and it's like usually it's just like maybe one guy, and it's like, okay, I've done my bit. I'm gonna like ride off on my horse and just do it all over again somewhere else. But with Magnificent Seven, it's like, oh, are they gonna stick together? Like, are they like part of each other's stories anymore? And to be fair, there are sequels that answer those questions, but I'd rather pretend that they don't exist.
There are sequels?
Yeah, there's like the Guns of the Magnificent Seven. I think there's another one.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of sequels that I haven't seen. It's like the Jaws series. It's like, well, the first one's great. Don't touch it, and they're made like
yeah. But yeah, I find the ending of Magnificent Seven really, really sad for that reason. And yeah, I would say it's like a favorite scene for how effective I think it is rather than how much I enjoy it. Because I am just left with like, because you feel like you've been. It's a bit like it's maybe a bit like driving home from Emmanuel's wedding because it's like you spent like all of this like chunk of time together and you've had like the best few days, and now all that's left is like a motorway. Like,
It's just the journey home.
yeah,
Back to normality.
yeah, but yeah, it's like it's part of what makes it. Well, it's a big part of what makes the film so effective for me, but it's also like just gutting, and I think that's like that sums up how good it all is at sort of getting you on these guys' side. So yeah, I think that's my favourite scene in Magnificent Seven. I think my favourite scene in A Bug's Life. It's a little bit on the nose, but I like the spirit of it. It's the one where Flick's talking about how a seed turns into a tree, and like
But it's a
how
rock.
because it's just like a perfect kind of thing. Because it's like I say, it's a bit on the nose, but I really like that sentiment of like you might not be a tree yet, but you've got everything that you need to become a tree. And I like that that's sort of juxtaposed with like you're talking about a rock. This isn't a seed. Like it's just like the perfect like comedy pair.
Okay. I suppose my favorite scene in Magnificent Seven. I think it was when Charles Bronson's character interacts with the kids the most. I think those are the scenes
Really?
that really like spoke to me a lot. Bernardo, and he's like he's talking to him, and they're kind of like saying how much they love him and respect him, and say, "Oh, don't worry, if whatever happens, we're going to put flowers in your grave and all that stuff." And he's like, "Is that any comfort to me?" After I'm dead and gone. That was a great moment, and obviously when he's died and the kids are like in tears and everything, it just shows you the bond he had with them for such a limited time. Him being an outsider, and they still trusted and liked him enough to be like, yeah, he's kind of their surrogate father in a way. I thought that was quite good. And obviously that is carried over in A Bug's Life with Francis's character, with him being kind of like the honorary ladybug. Basically, they're just thinking him as the honorary den mother of the little ants that live in the colony, and he kind of reluctantly becomes like the stepfather to them as well, which is nice.
Yeah,
But
that's actually like a perfect parallel, like turning Charles Bronson into a male ladybird.
yeah. There's so many great moments in The Bug's Life that I do really love and appreciate. I mean, Hopper is a great villain. Everything about him is just intimidating and fascinating to see how he interacts with everyone else. And Flicks is such a great hero because he's courageous, still has so much self-doubt, and so much like he's willing to kind of like go out of his comfort zone and do something so brave and unexpected to find something that will help the colony he's in. And all the circus bugs are so distinct and so funny. Every scene, like probably one of my favorite scenes probably is the flaming death scene where P.T. Flea just kind of like gets so desperate and just decides to be like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And just when all the flies are about to leave, he just gets their attention by striking the match and making all the circus bugs do this crazy like stunt that's so like last minute and so ill planned, and it's just hilarious how it unfolds. So, and as it turns out, it was a huge success.
Feel like I can't remember the voice actor for the PT Flea, but he is in pretty much. He's in all of the Pixar movies, right? Because
John
he's
Ratzenberger.
What's his name?
John Ratzenberger.
All right, yeah, because he's Ham from Toy Stories. Like he's in all of them, right? Is that he was in there? Because like it's like it must. I mean, like he must have like made friends of all those Disney people, right? Because it's just like, oh no, who's this character? Needed someone like an older gentleman. Oh, John Ratzenberger. Okay. How about this character? He's kind of like a more gruffier truck character. John Ratzenberger. And it's like, oh yeah, cool. And it's like because he's in all of them, I feel like he's a big part of Pixar, and it's like, yeah, you kind of need him in all the movies that we have, and then you kind of need him in it because it just gives it that little bit of like extra like Disney magic into it, and it's like, yeah, that's nice.
It's one of those things, isn't it? Like it's just like that constant that makes you think, oh, we're in good hands.
I think someone said he was like Pixar's good luck charm. Whenever he was in any Pixar film, he did always bring them like success.
That's sweet. Kind of, I made myself sad. I was thinking, it's kind of like expecting that Stan Lee cameo in Marvel movies now, and it's like, made myself sad because that's not going to happen anymore. And I was like, why did I make myself sad? Damn it. Yeah. But in any case, all these films have been made because of the Seven Samurai film, which, in all honesty, I have not actually finished watching. I've actually watched like a little bit when I was younger.
Yeah.
And like it was on TV or something, right? I've watched a little bit. Then afterwards, because it's 3 hours long, I go, I've got other stuff to do. I can't sit and watch it because it's on TV. I can't exactly pause TV, come back and do it. And I've never actually bought the actual film, but I might do that soon. I guess I could. I feel like it is on Amazon. If it's not, I will find my way to buy the proper DVD in its own right, and I will watch it that way. But like, I will watch.
You should buy it physically, actually, because the version that I've got is released by BFI, and you get like loads of like archive stuff, like interviews and that kind of thing with it. It's worth having.
Oh, sweet! That's cool. Okay, I'll try to get my hands on that.
Yeah.
And I'll watch it. I feel like because of Seven Samurai, it has built up to make us to watch Magnificent Seven, and in turn make us watch A Bug's Life. And I feel like all of these stories are very it's amazing storytelling from each different sort of like story versions of the story, but it's still quite a good story in of itself, and that's quite beautiful, and I think that's amazing. Yeah.
What a lovely Seven Samurai tribute.
Yeah,
can't ask for better.
I think we've got to the point of that, I guess.
Who's the next pick?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. What's the next pick supposed to be? Emmanuel, right?
It was originally Dan, and then it was Emmanuel, which I suppose now it should be Pat.
And if Pat's not awake, what do we do now?
It doesn't seem like he is awake, does it?
Oh, fuck. To be fair, me and Rob know what Pat's pick is.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wait, he just opened his eyes, I think.
Yeah, I'm awake.
Oh, Pat, can you announce what your movie is?
Oh, it's gonna be me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like no one else is. I mean, I'm here, but I really want to keep that April 1st movie pick because it's so trolly what I could choose.
Well, it's the opposite of what I'm going to be like in about 10 minutes' time. My pick is going to be Heat.
Heat?
Wait, why are you going to be cold in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be out cold.
Oh, right.
Michael Mann's Heat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Happening with Pat's bells right now.
Oh no, I emptied them earlier. Oh, it's the downside of fucking working all day.
Yeah, it's one of the many.
Okay. Oh, I see. The 1996.
Yeah, he's playing on Netflix and Netflix UK, so you should be able to find it.
I don't think it's on Netflix anymore.
What? It was yesterday.
I told you. I
Oh,
told you.
it's on Disney Plus.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
That is weird. Okay. Well, fair. It's playing somewhere great, but I swear it was.
You could
Netflix
tell
literally
Ben
a
was
day ago.
starting to rage.
Yeah, it's not the first time that's happened to us.
And my picks as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have a pick that is on like Apple TV. I don't really want you guys to watch Apple just to buy the film on Apple TV. It's gonna be annoying. So we'll see. I'll try to figure out how to do that in the like the future thing. But
I think we've all got access to Apple TV, to be fair.
But you can't. I mean, it could be like a thing of Romania. It's like he wants to rent it, but I don't want him to buy it if he doesn't really want to buy it. But it's a good film. But it's like, I don't want to make him go through that. We'll figure that out in the future. Yeah, it's a future problem. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But for now, our film is Heat. We'll make sure to tell everyone else that so they know to watch it. And I need to double check. Has Dan still not scored Harakiri yet?
No, he hasn't.
Oh. Okay. Whoosh. Okay.
Yeah, so Dan's actually got a very busy week now. He has just added 3.5 hours to the films he's got to watch still.
If he's busy, he's busy, but like, yeah, no.
Yeah, Jesus, 170 minutes. Oh no, that's less than 3 hours, sorry.
It's 2 hours something.
Yeah, 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Oh. Okay, it's almost 3.
What genre do you want it to go down as, Pat?
Prime.
Prime?
Prime.